Reaction video time. This is to 11 Yanks. 7 things Berhalter and the U.S. men's national team need to be successful in Qatar. Now, I haven't seen this video yet. I'm reacting it first time seeing it as you are. Hopefully you are. And I'm going to see what he says and see if I agree with him.
The World Cup is just 7 months away, and while it's very exciting that we're going to Qatar, we also have a lot of work to do between now and then.
We definitely do have a lot of work to do.
Today, I'm breaking down 7 things that Greg Berhalter and the players need to work on to give us the best possible chance of success in Qatar. What up, guys? I'm Pete Douthit, host of the 11 Yanks Show. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, don't only smash that subscribe button, make sure you hit the notifications button so that you don't miss a video. If you're not new, if you're already subscribed, welcome. Thanks for watching. Smash that like button so other people can find us. Let's dig in.
Same for me. Smash a like and subscribe for me, but also do it for him as well.
These points are pretty self-explanatory. It doesn't require much of an intro, so let's dig into them. Here we go. Number 1 is improve our ability to break down a low block. Over the course of qualifying, we were not good at breaking down opponents who sat in a low block. This is going to be really important, not just because in the group stage we're going to face teams like Iran or possibly Scotland or even Wales who are going to sit in a low block at least at some points during the game, but also because even the big teams that we face will sit in a low block if they're trying to protect the lead, or at least for certain phases or states of the game, and they're going to dare us to come and break them down, and we're going to have to be a lot better at it than we were in qualifying. Our primary form of breaking down a low block during qualifying was often crossing the ball. When that didn't work, we resorted to more crossing of the ball. We rarely attacked centrally. We were rarely unpredictable when trying to break down a low block.
We also really didn't have a strong center forward that could put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis.
We were very easy to defend against, and that's going to be even harder in Qatar, where the scouting and the quality of the defense, the quality of their shape, their organization is going to be much better than anything we see in CONCACAF. Our partners at BetOnline.
Yeah, he is correct about that. Our ability to break down. We probably should have had 1 or 2 goals against Costa Rica, but really didn't, and fortunately, we only had to save ourselves from having to not lose by 6-0. Now, he's going to talk about BetOnline. Okay, and I'm going to move on here.
Rather than our primary attacking tactic. The other thing that you can do is you can rehearse patterns of play, and that can be a little bit tricky because you don't want the players to get too robotic. But if you have 7 or 8 patterns of play that you rehearse as different ways to break down a low block, that involves player and ball movement, timing of movement, you can rehearse 6 or 7 patterns that are diverse, that make you unpredictable. One of them, for example, is when the ball moves from the wing to the middle of the field, instead of opening your body up and just switching the play to the other side of the field, which is pretty much what we do, how about the midfielder, and again, a guy like Gio can do this, opens his body up as if he's going to switch the play to the other side, and then slides a through ball through their back line to an on-running player like Weah or Pepe or Pulisic. What's really great about that is when you open your body up to switch, the opponent's defense changes their body shape to face the direction that they think the ball is going. And when you slide a ball in behind them, it's often difficult for them to recover because they're off balance by what they think is happening with the switch of play.
The translation to all this is don't be predictable. Just because the ball comes to you in the middle, don't just switch fields on it. Have some smart off-field runs. Make runs behind the defensive line and throw in smart through balls, but also watch out for being offsides if you do something like that.
And they're not expecting it. Unpredictability is the key to breaking down low blocks, and it's something we are going to have to work on between now and then. Number 2, improve our ability to defend in transition. Over the course of qualifying, we were very poor in defensive transitions. Sometimes that hurt us, for example, against Canada, but oftentimes the teams that we faced didn't have the quality to punish our poor.
It also hurt us when we played Iran in the 1998 World Cup as well.
Transitional game, and so we kind of got away with it. But way too often we were disorganized, too easily pulled apart, and our shape was not good enough defending in transition. For example, oftentimes we had our fullbacks very high up the field, up in the same line as our dual eights, trying to overlap. Our wide players were tucked in. And so, very often, when we lost the ball, we were very vulnerable in both the wide channels and even centrally, with not enough players playing back. It's a combination of both our attacking shape and our mentality and organization when we lose the ball. How do we fix that? Well, I've talked about this before, but one of the things that you can do is alternate your fullbacks. If Anthony Robinson is high up the field, maybe Dest holds his position and stays in the same line as Adams to provide cover in case we lose the ball.
Another thing you can do is move McKennie back and not have him pull forward as much. You're going to need a lot of support for those forwards, especially if they're going forward. And if you're going to play an attacking style, that's what you're going to need to do. But yeah, I agree with him. If one goes up, one stays back. Depends on the opponent. Depends on the circumstance as well.
The same applies vice versa. Or if you have both your fullbacks high up the field, either you drop Musa or McKennie back, very likely Musa because he's not as much of a goal threat as McKennie. Of course, this applies if Gio is there too. He holds his position and isn't looking to make those late runs into the box because if we lose the ball, we're going to have to be able to have at least a few more numbers back to defend in transition.
All this is tactical, okay, and depends on the circumstance of the game.
Another way to defend in transition is Gigan Press. Now, Gigan pressing is different than pressing. Pressing is when the opponent has possession of the ball and you press them to try to win it back. Gigan pressing happens immediately after you lose the ball. So the opponent still has the ball, but very often, because they've just won the ball, they're not in an attacking shape yet, and it takes them a few seconds to change their shape from a defending one into an attacking one. In that moment, if you press cohesively and together, particularly around where the ball is, you can make it very difficult for them to get out of pressure. But too often in qualifying, we would lose the ball and we wouldn't be quick enough to jump on it to Gigan press. And so they were able to play quickly out of pressure. And now all of a sudden we're caught in behind and we're trying to defend on the turn and we're trying to reorganize.
Basically, once you lose the ball, try and get it back as soon as possible before they have a chance to break out. That's what Manchester City, that's what Pep Guardiola does on a regular basis.
In retreat, which is a terrible, terrible way to have to defend. It's a process that we can get better at, and there are definitely more things that we can do, but we're absolutely going to have to get better at it because teams in Qatar will kill us in transition. Top teams with top players can take the ball from one end of the field to the other in 3 to 4 seconds and absolutely destroy you, and we cannot let that happen. Number 3 is figure out the defensive set piece problem. So, 4 out of the 10 goals that we conceded in World Cup qualifying were either from set pieces or in the immediate aftermath of set pieces. There was also a 5th goal, what I call the ghost goal, against Jamaica, where Jamaica scored a very legitimate set piece at home against us, and the referee didn't allow it for one reason or another. Now, thank God that he did that, because otherwise we might be facing a playoff with New Zealand right now. But my point is, we're very vulnerable on set pieces. Why? Take a look at us defending this corner against Costa Rica. We play this hybrid system of man marking and zonal marking, and it's very clear here. Right now, you see 3 players in the box trying to man mark who we consider to be key players. And then we have 4 or 5 players in the box on top of the goalkeeper who are defending space. The idea is that you pick up players who you think are going to be aerial threats and you have man-to-man marking responsibilities. And then anybody who makes that run into the 6-yard box is picked up by one of these 5 players. Now, it's not a bad system necessarily. The issue is that oftentimes our guys were not very good at staying tight and goal side to their man. In this goal in particular, Kellen Acosta lets number 3 drift completely unmarked into the box, and nobody picks him up in the 6-yard box, and he scores off of the header.
We were very undisciplined on this corner, and the ball went right past Zach Steffen. Very, very... when you're defending a corner kick, zonal marking, man marking. The point is, you need to get the ball first. You can't let somebody get an unmolested attack right on your goal. It's going to be very difficult for the goalkeeper to stop, and that's how most corners are scored anyway. So very, very poor job by the U.S. marking on this goal by Costa Rica.
Making sure that we understand the stakes, the importance of staying goal side and tight to your man, decreasing the amount of handoffs, because essentially that's what happens. Not only do the players marking zonally have to pick up any loose players that make that run into the box, they also have to pick up players that somehow shake their marker in the.
And this is what we have to put up with.
The 18-yard box, and in the transition in that handoff, things can get very confusing and very difficult to defend against. Another thing that could really help, in my opinion, is having guys on the goal line. Maybe you have shorter players like Serginho Dest and Luca de la Torre who aren't probably going to win a lot of balls in the air. Stand on the goal line as extra cover and protection.
Stand on the goal line for extra protection. Another person who could have helped here was John Brooks, who wasn't even called in.
So that if all else fails and we do miss men in the box, you have guys on the goal line that can cover and provide extra protection. Number 4 is adopt a secondary formation. Now, 4-3-3 is not a terrible formation. I'm not convinced that it really suits the strengths and weaknesses of our player pool, but it's the formation that Greg Berhalter wants to use, and it is what it is. But at the very least, we need to have a secondary formation available that has been rehearsed and practiced and that the players are familiar with so that we can adapt to opponents, to game states, to score lines, to styles of play, to have a plan B, essentially, which has been one of our biggest issues in qualifying, when what we're doing isn't.
Back to the 1998 World Cup, Steve Sampson had a 3-6-1 formation. He would tell anybody who wanted to hear about this great 3-6-1 formation. They play against Germany in their first game, and they are being overrun by the Germans. Before you know it, we're back to a 4-4-2 formation, and we end up in last place in the World Cup.
Working, we don't have a plan B. What are some of the weaknesses of the 4-3-3? Well, for one thing, neither of our fullbacks defend very well in isolation. Both Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson have gotten better at it over the course of qualifying, but it's going to be a very different ball game in Qatar, where you're defending guys like Phil Foden or Gareth Bale or even a guy like Memphis Depay. They're not going to be easy to defend against. The other problem is we don't build very well out of the back. Our center forward is often isolated in a 4-3-3, and the center forward isn't really our strongest position of depth right now. In my opinion,
one of the U.S.'s weaknesses is playing out of the back. There comes a time where the best thing to do is just kick the ball a country mile and then just get your formation back together. But they try and play out of the back. You can lose the ball very easily, and next thing you know, they're scoring. Now, he looks like he's setting up here a 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1. Pulisic playing behind Weah, McKennie and Gio playing behind Pulisic with Robinson and Dest on the wings. Abrams in defensive midfield in front of Robinson, Zimmerman, and Richards. This is maybe more like a 3-5-2. You know, there's a number of ways you can call these 3-3-2-1-1. But this would be an interesting formation if you wanted to do it because Adams is going to run all over creation for you. He's a good person to have in the back there like that. And he's also one of the leaders of the team. And Destin Robinson would be doing an awful lot of running up and down those wings.
And a 3-5-2 would be the best formation for us to try. It takes the pressure off of wingbacks, Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest, to get high up the field while still providing cover from them with 3 center backs. Whether this is Brooks or Robinson or Zimmerman, it doesn't matter. What it really does is it gives us more protection in that back line and puts less defending responsibilities on the fullbacks. Also, it allows us to maintain that equality of numbers in midfield because most opponents are going to play 3 in midfield. The other advantage of the 3-5-2 is it allows Christian Pulisic to play as a second forward. Perhaps Tim Weah or even Ricardo Pepi or Josh Sargent could play as the number 9. I think we should experiment with it. But what I was saying is that Pulisic can drift wide to help overload if he wants to. He can drift centrally. He's going to be a lot more.
Pulisic can basically free roam in that scenario. He's not playing as an out-and-out forward like Weah is. He's basically a free roamer.
Goal dangerous playing in and around the box rather than coming so deep into midfield. I don't know if the 3-5-2 is the best formation for us, but I really believe that it enhances the strengths of our player pool and covers for a lot of our weaknesses, and I'm surprised we haven't tried it before.
It would be prudent. I can't say I disagree with him here. I think this would be an interesting formation to try, and that's why you have those pre World Cup friendlies. Now, you're not going to be able to do that prior to the World Cup like you are in the past World Cups. Usually, you have like a send-off series with 3 games against opponents where you can try different things like that, where it doesn't matter a whole lot. But you're not going to be able to do that. You're basically going to be playing your club ball, and then about a week before the World Cup starts is when you're going to be released to your national teams. So it could be interesting to see who the United States plays in these pre-match friendlies.
Now, number 5, figure out how we're going to play out of the back.
And I just said this, when it comes to playing out of the back, sometimes the smart thing to do is just kick it a country mile. Okay, sometimes it's just the right thing to do. And playing out of the back is not something that the United States is very strong at.
Playing out of the back under pressure makes sense if you have the personnel to do it. You can play through a team's press and you can attack space in behind. Problem is, we don't have the personnel. Matt Turner, Walker Zimmerman.
Yeah, we don't have the personnel. And sometimes when they press real high like that, kicking the ball long distance is the smart play in that situation, because then you can put them on their back foot. But we seem to be hell-bent on passing the ball out of the back, and it can cause problems. We just don't have the personnel. We are not Barcelona. Okay, we're the U.S. national team.
Miles Robinson, Aaron Long, they're not able to consistently play under pressure to make line-breaking passes, and the kind of presses that we're going to face in Qatar are not going to be the kind of presses that we face in CONCACAF. They're going to be a lot more organized, a lot better, and a lot quicker. So oftentimes when we play under pressure and we don't have the guys to play out of the back, we end up lumping the ball long to a guy like Jesus Ferreira, who, holding up aerial balls, that's not his strong point.
And I was talking about kicking it a country mile is the right thing. Miles the right thing to do, but that's the other thing. If you're going to use it as a attacking weapon, you do need somebody up there who can hold the ball up and distribute the ball, so the U.S. can get on the attack. When I'm talking about kicking it a country mile, I'm just saying just get it out of pressure and then reset and wait and maybe take the ball back from the opponent at a higher part of the pitch. I'm not talking about controlling the ball by a forward. You need somebody who's going to be able to do that. United States, I haven't seen anybody be able to do that yet.
To be honest, it's not a skill set that Zardes or Pepe have either. If you decide you want to play out of the back, you have to make sure you have the personnel that can do that. For me, that involves guys like Zach Steffen, John Brooks, Chris Richards, and even a guy like Luca De La Torre at the 6 who have the technique and the ability to play under pressure that way. But with that set of personnel, you run up against a whole nother set of problems. So I don't know what the right answer to this question is, but you cannot play out of the back if you don't have the personnel to do it. And if your response is to then go long, you have to make sure you have a striker who can hold up aerial balls. Do we? Maybe. I'm not convinced it's Jordan.
You don't necessarily, like I said before, you don't necessarily have to have somebody who can do that. You can always hoof it up there and then defend the opposition from there. If you don't have somebody who can control the ball. But the other thing is, if you kick the ball kick the ball long, make sure you have a place you're going to go with the ball. Don't just kick it aimlessly right to their defense. So 2 seconds later, after you kicked it, it's coming right back down your throat.
Jordan Pefok's strongest game. Sargent can do it to a degree. Maybe Daryl DK if he's healthy. But generally speaking, you need an alternative. Maybe hitting the long ball is not for your striker to hold it up. You're expecting the opponent to win it in the air, but then maybe you have the midfield to push up and to try to win the second ball. Maybe you put that long ball diagonally into one of your wingers and you have your fullback and the midfielder squeeze that side of the field to try to win the second ball there, and then you go. Whatever it is, it needs to be very clear what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and make sure we have the personnel to do it effectively. Otherwise, we're wasting opportunities, we're giving the ball away unnecessarily, and giving opponents the opportunity to come straight down our throat and punish us.
And these are problems that the U.S. have had as long as I've been watching the U.S. national team play, and I've been watching them since the mid-'80s.
Number 5, the striker conundrum. I don't know what the answer to this question is.
Nobody knows what the answer to this question is because we don't have one. We really don't have an out-and-out goal-scoring striker. Now, sometimes you might find somebody like that prior to the World Cup. We didn't even go through qualifying. And we didn't find a striker back in 2002, sorry, World Cup, Korea, Japan. We found Pablo Mastroeni, but who's a defensive midfielder. Is there somebody out there for the U.S. national team who you can put out there who can start scoring goals on a regular basis? I don't know anybody. Manchester City runs into this problem every now and then. They ran into this problem today when they played against Atletico Madrid. They didn't have a center forward. They didn't have anybody who was dangerous enough to score goals. And the United States doesn't have anybody. And he doesn't know how to solve this problem. And the reality is, nobody knows how to solve this problem. We do not have an out-and-out goal scorer. We do not have a center forward. We have players who can score, but we don't have a goal scorer.
It's because we have a striker problem. Our strikers, none of our strikers are particularly in form. None of them are particularly confident going into qualifying. Jesus Ferreira has shown well for Dallas this season. But the questions are, does that translate into the national team? We don't know. It hasn't so far. How will Pepe do? I think that people are jumping on Pepe. He hasn't been his best self, certainly, but he is evolving as a player. Josh Sargent is playing out of position for a terrible team in the Premier League, but he's going to start in the Championship next season. A lot of our striker problems have to do with fit and style of play, and make sure that the striker that we have on the field fits with how we want to play.
We also have a lot of youth. A lot of these players are very, very young. They just do not have the experience. Now, Pepe going over to Augsburg in the Bundesliga, it takes time. It just takes time, and you just need to be able to get that first goal. Get that goal. Now, I've seen him play a couple times, and he does well, but he needs to put the ball in the back of net, needs to take his opportunities, needs to know where to look for these opportunities.
We've never tried Tim Weah there, and I would like to see that tried at some point. Some people have suggested playing Gio Reyna as a center forward. I think he could do it as sort of a false nine if he had to, but I think then you lose a lot with him in midfield. And
I would be opposed to Gio Reyna going up and playing a forward. I mean, he could do it, but you lose too much when you do something like that with a player of his skill. I mean, I remember watching his father play, and I can say he's right now, and I think his father would agree. Gio Reyna is a lot better than his father was.
I just don't think putting your best player out of position in order to allow you to get all your best players on the field is the best way to approach this. I think you put your best players in their best positions and then you build around them. Part of the problem could be playing with a two-striker formation, either in a 3-4-2 or a 4-4-2 diamond. That is one solution. Or you go with the hot hand going into Qatar. You have maybe a Pepe and a Ferreira, and then somebody who offers something different, like a Josh Sargent or a Daryl Dike. Somebody who can be a threat in the air if you need a goal in the last 20 minutes. It's a tough one, and Berhalter is going to have to pick his 2 or 3 strikers very, very carefully going into Qatar. The good news is we're not the only country in the world that has striker problems. A lot of teams don't have a pure 9, and it's about getting the right supporting cast around the right player at the right time, getting some momentum, getting their confidence up, perhaps with a goal or 2 early in the World Cup.
Kind of makes you wish Erling Haaland didn't play for Norway, and that maybe he came and got nationalized for the United States. We could put him up there
to get them firing for the rest of the
It's nice to dream.
Tournament. Number 7, get comfortable defending for large stretches of the game.
If the United States is going to go strong in this World Cup, if they're going to have any chance, they're going to have to defend strong. Okay, they're probably going to be pressured against a lot of teams the farther they go. England, if they make it to the second round, maybe they go up against the Netherlands, maybe go up against France. Yeah, you better be prepared to defend if you're going to be playing against teams like that. Now, that's putting a little bit the cart before the horse, but yeah, you better be prepared to defend in the World Cup.
Like it or not, guys, we are going up against a lot of teams that are better than us, and we're going to have to get very good at defending. Now, to be fair, the U.S. has done this for the last 20 years at the World Cup. Gone, sat deep, bunkered hard, and tried to hit teams on counterattacks and with set pieces. And I believe our best chances of success in Qatar involve doing just that. Take a look at this Real Madrid defensive formation in their Champions League win against Manchester City. Over the last 30 minutes of the game, they basically sat in a 6-3-1 formation and dared Chelsea to come and break them down. You see Mendy and Carvajal,
I don't know why he said Manchester City there, but okay.
Fullback sort of tucking inside and playing as outside center backs to basically create a back four center back. Then you had Valverde and Vini Jr. dropping back, almost playing like fullbacks in a back six. Then you had the midfield trio of Cruz, Casemiro, and Luka Modric sitting in front of that back line of six and saying, we've got the width of the field covered. We're also going to make it hard for you to penetrate through our defensive depth. Then, of course, they had Benzema as an option if they won the ball to hold up the ball and then to hit on counterattacks. I did a whole video on Patreon breaking down this 4-3-3 from Real Madrid and how many lessons we can take from how they play, the versatility, their understanding of space. Even though they're a big team, they're not afraid to defend and to bunker for large stretches of a game.
They were also on the road, and they were up 3-1 against Chelsea at this point in time.
If they think it's going to help them to get if they think it's going to help them get a result. Style points go out the window at the World Cup. Winning is all that matters. And we're going to have to get very comfortable defending space, being good at tracking players, closing down passing lanes, last-ditch defending, and making it very difficult for opponents to break us down.
Style points don't count a lot when you're talking about a tournament, any tournament. And the best example I can give better than this would be the 2004 European Cup played in Portugal. It was won by Greece. Yeah, you heard me correct, Greece. Greece played an amazing defensive style, and they would score one goal, and they dared teams to try and beat them, and they could not. They would get their one or two opportunities per game, capitalize, and that's how they beat Portugal. They beat Portugal the first game of the tournament, and then they beat Portugal the last game of the tournament and won the tournament. If you're playing in a World Cup and you're the United States, you are not going to win it by going forward and attacking up and down the pitch. That's just not going to happen. You're going to have to defend. I mentioned some of the teams, the Netherlands possibly going up as farther down as maybe playing France, even England in the first round. And look, Iran is not going to be a pushover by any stretch. They can attack you, so you better be prepared to defend and defend smartly if you're going to win if you're going to go far in the World Cup. Like I said, I don't think the United States is going to win this World Cup. Now, strangely going to happen, and I'm going to root for them. But I don't see the United States going very far unless you defend. And every team has to defend. That goes from Brazil to whoever you perceive to be the weakest team.
So those are my thoughts, guys, on Greg's and the team's to-do list between now and Qatar. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Is there anything I missed? Is there other things that you think are going to be important for us to figure out between now and then? Love to hear your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, that's Pete Dort from 11 Yanks, and he's put it 7 things that need to happen for the United States to be successful. And I can't say I disagree with a whole lot of what he said. I gave my 2 cents on what I think is going to happen, but I think the United States is going to, if they're going to go do well, Berhalter has a lot of work to do, and he doesn't have a whole lot of time to do it in, as we know, because the U.S. clubs players are going to be playing with their clubs team. The other thing you also have to look at in this situation, who's going to be injured? There's going to be injured. So a lot of players who end up pulling out of a World Cup because they get injured during the play into the World Cup, and you're only going to have a week before you play your first game, and you don't even know who your opponent is. It's going to be very, very important that the United States gets prepared for that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed this video. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm just responding to what he's saying. And I can't say, like I said, I can't say I disagree with it, but 11 Yanks, 7 things Berhalter and the U.S. men's national team need to be successful in Qatar. Smash a like and subscribe on my channel, and smash a like and subscribe on his channel as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.